laugh has been described as a chuckle.
Right.
Oh, the British guy, I know.
Yeah, you know, that one British
Well, there's only
British teenager.
If you feel the need to read it, check it out from the library.
I don't
Support your local.
Told the parable. No. And we are the Bookeis. Hey there, people of the interwebs. My name is Brandon Noel. I'm a cartoonist, painter, and author. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Bookeis podcast. But before we dive right into it, I hope this episode is brought to you by patreon.com/Destiny Comics. Comics spelled C-O-M-I-X. Where you can get bookmarks, original art. The podcast always goes up first on Patreon. Every Sunday there's the funnies. So I hope you check out our Patreon and all the other good stuff. If you want to buy our books directly, there's destinycomics.weebly.com. You can go to our store. You can buy our books directly from there. Also, most of our books are available on Amazon.com. Not everything, but most stuff's on Amazon. This episode of the Bookeis, we do a deep dive and review of Nation by Terry Pratchett, the amazing satirist, amazing author, Sir Terry Pratchett. I really can't say everything. I mean, his writing means a lot to me. He himself was very inspirational to me. But I hope you enjoy our deep dive into Nation. Once again, brought to you by patreon.com/Destiny Comics.
Yep, mine is. Me too.
Mine isn't.
I feel like we should have that, pre-recorded voice. Please silence your cell phones.
Boop, boop. What's wrong?
Remain seated, please. Gentlemen, citizen comments, por favor.
Hands, arms, legs, and feet inside the rug at all times.
He needs to do more than
Let me
just
creep the back here for a second.
No, he just wants love.
baseball go out again? You what?
Come here.
Yeah. I think he just went and he came right back. Outside.
Get the germs out of there.
All right.
Give you a nice little buzz while you do it. Yeah.
We are the Bookeis. I am Brandon.
I'm Justin.
Bonnie.
Wayne. David.
And Maylene.
This month we read The Nation by Terry Pratchett. Wayne, this was your pick. You want to give a brief summary synopsis?
Synopsize for us.
It's your book's newer. Nation, not The Nation.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
This one I like because at the point in time when I read this, I'd already devoured 15 or 20 Discworld books by Terry Pratchett. This is not a Discworld book.
No.
It's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's completely different. And it's about a young boy named Mao who is going through his manhood ritual. His father and uncles put him in a canoe and carried him off to what's called the Boys Island, and he has a set period of time in which to build himself a canoe and return. And if he fails to do that, he will not be considered a man of the nation. But if he succeeds in doing that, he leaves his boy spirit on the boys' island, and he's welcomed by the big bonfires and feasts of his home island, and he is given his man spirit. And so he's on this trek. He's finished the boat, and suddenly all the birds on the island take flight. And he's like, wow, I'm not sure what's going on, but if they're scared, I should get out of here too. And he gets into his boat and rides out a tsunami. Because what happened, although the book doesn't specifically state it, was the Krakatoa exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And it created multiple tsunamis radiated out from it. And so he rides the tsunami out, gets to the island, and the wave has wiped it clean. And there's nobody there to welcome him.
Bad boy.
So he does not get his man soul. So he's this soulless creature that is acting as chief, and stragglers and survivors come in and they start to rebuild the nation. But very, very different read. Very enjoyed it a lot. That's why I threw the name in the pot.
How many times have you read this one?
Twice now.
Twice.
Oh, okay. For some reason I had a memory of it, you saying you read it more, but maybe I was just misremembering.
But so that's the book. Why I picked it out.
You want to start with your favorite moments, best part?
Things that I liked about the book.
Mm-hmm.
There are two main characters. There's Mao and there's Daphne. And Daphne is a British girl. She was on board a ship. The tsunami carried it 2/3 of the way up the top of the mountain and left it stranded in this gap between two rocks. And she's basically the sole survivor.
Her and the parrot.
No, her and the parrot, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The curse and parrot.
And she and Mao start using a picture book that she had and looking at different birds and animals and things. They start and teaching each other's language so they can communicate. And then other survivors come up, and there's this one they have that's there's a baby, and it needs milk. That was a favorite scene of mine because he mixes up some native beer with some root veggies and makes this thick mash and creeps up on a sleeping sow that is nursing pigs and leaves it and scurries away, and she wakes up and goes, "Oh, this smells good," and eats it and goes into a drunken sleep. And he takes and fills a fish bladder with milk by suckling the milk himself and spitting it into the fish bladder. And comes back and gives it to the baby, saving the baby's life.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, before he has to go do it again, a boat comes in that has a mother with an infant, and she can nurse both of them. But
I gotta say, that showed a lot of his character, because as a 13-year-old, I wouldn't have done that. I'd be like, nope, sorry, nope.
I'm like, sorry, baby.
I mean, maybe you could have pulled at my heartstrings for the baby, but other than that, I'm like, I don't think I'm okay with this.
He also doesn't know, like, how a lot of this works. He's just figuring it out.
mm-hmm.
Because he never got, like, the man talk.
Right.
But he did ask a lot of questions as a kid, so
At least he was able to figure some
he
stuff
paid
out.
attention to things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he didn't know completely the explanation for everything. He's like, okay, I think.
And I'm going to try and see what happens.
So, I really enjoyed it. The story is people came and joined, and, he was like chief. But I enjoyed I also like the historic find in the cave.
Yeah.
Where they found out that the island had been the seat of an ancient civilization that was high technology for
That time.
its era, that time.
Kind of like an Atlantis kind of thing.
And I like the fact that how Daphne gave him guidance to ask the right questions at the end of the book when he's dealing with representatives of the British government to make sure that the artifacts stay there, that he becomes a member of the Royal Scientific Society or whatever it was called, and they can't steal.
All the stuff
They
to
can come.
preserve it.
They can come to the island and study all they want, but it stays here.
Yeah.
Preserves the nation.
And I liked the epilogue.
The epilogue was really cool. Like,
One of my favorite characters in the book, and only appears in the epilogue, is the pet octopus. That's one of my favorite characters in the book.
Yeah.
Because they're intelligent, and that has 8 arms. It can count up to 15. And the owner has given it a treat, and it's gathered the treat and eaten it, and it's sitting there going like, maybe I will get more treats.
Where there's one, there's more.
Yes. Maybe more than 15.
That's the highest number it knows.
The highest number I can count is 15. There might be more than 15. I love that.
Yeah.
That whole ending scene.
That's a good scene.
I love it because, I mean, if I were writing the book, I wouldn't even thought to have like an octopus be part of the story at all. Like, so the fact that, I guess one of the things I like about Terry Pratchett, like he just goes places that I never would have thought. Oh yeah, pet octopus. That totally makes sense, right? Right.
Well, he sets it up early
Tree
on.
climbing octopus.
climbing.
Tree climbing octopus.
Yeah, I know he sets it up, but like maybe
Right.
I would be like, okay, there's a weird octopus over there. That's weird. Okay, but moving on,
Yeah.
I would never have thought, but like, oh yeah, in the epilogue, we're gonna have this pet octopus who can count to a certain number. And
I think one of the other characters that I really liked in the story was the old granny.
Mrs.
Old
Gurgle.
toothless granny.
Mrs. Gurgle, yeah.
Mrs. Gurgle.
Yeah, that
Just
was my
Daphne
favorite
Debter.
character.
Yeah.
I liked Mrs. Gurgle.
She was
She was great.
a very good character. But those were
Very real character.
a very real character, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So those were things that stuck in my mind that I really enjoyed about the book.
All right, David.
Yeah, Mrs. Gurgle was my favorite character. I got it right here. The old lady with no teeth farting because of the salted meat. I think
That's a direct quote.
I think one of the funny moments in here was Mao trying to figure out the drawing from Ermintrude, Daphne.
Yeah.
Where he thought that once there's one tree left, I'm supposed to throw a spear at the
Right, you should just pointed an arrow, you
Yeah.
know, like come here,
Like,
and he's like,
I'm gonna
I have to throw a spear. I thought that was great.
that's funny because
And her moment where she's like, oh my gosh, well maybe it's like shaking hands to show that you don't have a sword in it. They're throwing their spear to say, hello, I'm unarmed.
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm not sure if any of you felt or were seen the old Brooke Shields movie called The Blue Lagoon.
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
This book kind of reminded me of that.
Oh, yeah.
Without the incest?
Yeah.
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 A little bit, because you got the like adolescents trying to figure things out, and
Right.
Yeah, the swearing parrot was funny.
Of course, yeah.
Not naming the kid Twinkle was a good choice.
But then they called him Twinkle anyway
I know.
She did, yeah.
in private.
She's like, I can't let them know. I still refer to him as Twinkle.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Yeah, being poisoned to death, and she said thank you. What Cookie said about the pistols, I like the 2-pound noise that Cookie mentioned, because
Oh, yeah.
when someone clicks the gun,
They
you
lose
suddenly,
2 pounds.
you suddenly lose 2 pounds because you
Yeah.
just pooped it out.
Yep.
And then Mrs. Gurgle now has a gold grill. I liked at the end, because I completely forgot about the axe.
Right?
I
Yeah.
completely forgot about that axe.
And he
then
tried to get it out when it went by, and all of a sudden you're like,
that was,
that's the
yeah.
tree, there's the axe. Oh my gosh.
The axe comes back.
Yes.
I didn't get through the end.
Oh yeah, it does. Sorry.
Axe comes back, and because
Because I remember when he was trying to get it out.
pirate,
Yeah.
or not pirate, but the guy that comes
Oh.
back, he fights. He comes back. One of the mutineers comes back, and he fights. He uses the axe to win.
Yeah, it's
And
awesome. It was really good coming back. Like, some things are set up. If there was a good,
Eat rather
you got to
than
pay
eat
out. You got to pay out on that
You
one.
should.
I'm going to finish the book,
Yeah.
I liked how the crew was talking shit on her grandmother. They hated her too.
I
Yeah.
like how they're like, it in no way made the trip longer.
And,
She was such a delight.
I guess there was some kind of Vikings or something like that in there talking about of the past, Booberk the Saxon, and how he only lasted like
Oh yeah.
as a king, he only lasted like
Like
1 second because
1 second.
lightning hit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I like that.
It was
little
like the
moment.
quickest crowning.
The
whatever.
Coronation.
quickest coronation,
Yeah.
except for this guy.
Yeah, Booberk the Saxon,
Yeah.
he got struck with lightning when he was done.
Yeah.
And then the last part, grandmother is finally put in her place by the king.
Yes.
That was a
And
beautiful
his name-
moment.
and his name is King Henry the Ninth.
Yes.
I just went, oh my god, his successor,
Right.
King Henry the Eighth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the funny, what I enjoyed about the book.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's some good stuff.
Maylene?
Okay, so yes, I will second that whole grandmother being put in her place. Cause
Oh,
like
so
this
good.
woman, oh my god! Because I've known people like that. Like, oh my gosh, you just want to yell at this woman. And some of the people I've known who are like that were, like in this case, my elders.
Right.
And I was also raised, don't talk
Yeah.
back to your elders. So I'm like, oh, I would have hated to be in Daphne's position because
Nobody wants to.
this woman is horrible. Like,
Right.
and the fact that she finally had like, look, I'm the king now, and you're gonna listen to the king, right? I mean, that's your whole thing. You like looking down on people and having the hierarchy. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? I'm at the top of the food chain now, so
Shut up.
So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh, the British.
They sent her over to be an ambassador for the Americas.
Oh yeah. It's like bye. That was that part.
Yeah, that was good.
I think overall, I liked the second half of the book better than I liked the first half. Not because the first half was bad.
No.
It's just because by that point you were getting more characters. You were getting a little bit more. There was a little bit
More
more
things
humor.
happening,
Things
yeah.
were happening. Like, not that. I mean,
We've gotten through the important survival bits.
yeah, there's been books that I've liked that were more character driven than action driven.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes that actually can work in my opinion, to the book's disadvantage if it's more character driven and not enough. Just because, like, that was my main problem with what was the Apocalypse book we read.
The Road.
The Road.
Yeah.
That was my main problem. Was that you
Papa?
had yeah.
No.
Stop it! You're going to be kicked out if you do that. It's that you just mostly had these two characters, but nothing. I mean, stuff happened technically, but there wasn't a whole lot. So I was kind of worried that I might get a lot of that with this book. Like, it's not that it's bad, just not my personal cup of tea in a lot of ways. So I was glad when we got more characters and we got more interactions and more humor and more of the kid growing up and in his own way. I liked that any elements that seemed quote unquote supernatural in the beginning, you found the scientific explanation, like the beer. I'm like, what is with this beer thing? Like, why is it going from, like, I know there's got to be something.
I brew. You don't sing to the.
No, I don't brew. I don't sing to your brew. I'm sorry. I've got other things going on. Maybe that's what happened.
Well, and Daphne had figured it out.
Yeah, I like that Daphne figured it out. Oh, it's not that we're singing and you've got the vocals and that's what's making the beer
amount of
edible.
time.
Yeah. It's
with
that
the enzymes in your saliva.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, that makes it logical to spit into it. That made the spitting logical. That made, okay, this is why we sing to it. That's like, oh, I knew we'd get an answer somewhere along the way. I couldn't figure out why, they had to sing to it. And so it was kind of cool to, like, okay, it doesn't matter the song. Like, just as long as you give it enough time for it to,
But I love that she did learn the actual song.
Yeah.
And I love it right towards the end. She's like, they're like, hey, you want beer? She's like, make sure they spit into it and sing Baba Black Sheep 16 times.
Is that 16 times or the song that takes 5 minutes?
Right, but she was talking about the British people. So 16 times.
So she's like, make sure they do it, And I liked, I like the fact that they didn't, the choices the kids made at the end made sense.
Yeah.
And they didn't try to shoehorn in, oh no, I'm going to stay here. It's like,
right, no, they both had obligations.
Yeah.
I mean, it was sad because part of you wanted them to choose to be together because they wanted to be together.
But at the same time, it's kind of sweet because it's this very, like, first love type thing.
Yeah.
Like, you'll always remember, of course.
Yes.
Everyone remembers their first love.
I mean, she made sure she got, after being the queen, that she got her burial at sea with Mao instead of...
So, but it was very sweet. I thought, it wasn't like, oh, they had this, because they were so young. It wasn't like, oh, they were older and then this grand torrid affair, and now they're gone their separate ways. It's like, okay, they can look back on it fondly. And they both grew so much and helped each other so much. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, he recognized that she saved his life more, many times, and he saved hers, and it was a.
And the last thing I will say is I did like what was it? I'm not sure I think you pronounce it Pilu, the character.
Yeah.
I love that because she, saying about the stars when his son was being born. That he's like oh
he's the uncle. Pilu's the uncle. It's the other guy.
Oh, Milo.
Yeah.
Or is it Milo or Milo?
Well, Milo's how they say it when the.
Oh, is it Milo? Okay, I wasn't sure because but I like how he's like, oh, I like this girl now because she sang to my son and.
Guiding Star, which is a good name.
A good name, so.
That was a good moment. That's one of my favorites. Go ahead. It's not my turn.
Twinkle. Maylene said something that actually made me think, because you mentioned the road. And my big problem with the road was the character, he didn't want to fight to survive.
Yeah.
That was like my big, I hate this book because if they don't care about survival, why do I care if they survive?
Right.
Mao, on the other hand, he's gonna survive.
Will not happen.
He is a fighter.
Well, and it's something that, and I don't remember if it talked about it as much. And he talks about it at the end, where he acknowledges that just her being there saved his life the first time. Because if she hadn't have been there when he was done burying everyone, he would have walked into the sea with the heaviest rock he could carry.
Yeah, he was done.
Because one person is just a person, but two people are a nation. And then you add more and you just have a bigger nation. So even though they didn't understand each other, her being there, just being someone else there, that, it gave him something to live for. And then he had to help take care of the baby. And then he had to help. And so he had purpose. And not only was he surviving, he was making sure everyone else was going to survive because he wasn't about to bury someone else.
I really like that.
Does not happen.
Does not happen. Even the parrot started saying does not happen.
My favorite scene, though, is the shark.
Show me your drawers.
Show me your under things.
My favorite scene, though, is when he's dealing with the shark. I believe this chapter was called Fishing for Gods, when they find the other gods. And the water priest is freaking out because it's blasphemy. He's trying to destroy it underwater.
And the shark.
Yeah, well, he almost passes out. And he gets him up to the boat. And he goes, get him, pump him. It says something like, pump the water out of him because I can't yell at him if he's dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love that whole thing. And then the shark, and then
But when Pee-wee tells the story later, and he's leading up to it,
And he pissed himself.
he's like, Mel's like, oh, great.
Did you have to say that
Because
part?
he's hoping no one noticed. So I realized he was human like us.
He wasn't a demon child.
And then he scared the shark away. I love it.
Yelled at a shark
yeah.
underwater.
It's so funny because we were talking about that on the way here. I said, Brandon, if for some reason I have to yell at a shark to save your life, don't tell anyone I pee myself. I guarantee I will pee myself.
Right?
But please don't tell anyone
anybody.
that actually happened.
I loved Pee-wee's gift for telling stories and making you see it.
Well, and Terry Pratchett.
Because there's people like that.
And Terry
that gift.
Pratchett, everything he does, if he has a religion, it's about storytelling.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he every book, everything he writes, there's always something about the power of story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, that's the theme that he can't help but go back
I
to.
forget
Right.
which of the Discworld stories it is that I read semi-recently, so sometime this year, where one of the main characters is part of a traveling, theater group. I forget which book it is. But I want to say it was one of the witch books.
Is it Masquerade?
I don't think I've read that one yet.
Oh, it's good.
But anyway, one of the characters is part of the travel, and so that was a big deal in it, like telling stories.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you see that a lot in his books. Somebody somewhere is great at storytelling in most of his books.
Yep.
Or even just the power of the written word with going postal or
Right.
Well,
Well, and here they talk. Well, it's brought back even more when Daphne's saying, when they've discovered the cave, and she's saying, the four sons were on their father, blah, and he's like, yeah, it's a kid's thing. No, it became a kid's song. It became a story because this is how you guys pass things on, but it was based on fact. It was based on Jupiter and its moons and this and that and realizing, things that you've just taken for granted as a children's song or a story is history that's been being passed down for thousands of years by your people because they figured things out first.
Verbal history.
And if you think
Verbal
about
history,
that,
yeah.
there's a lot of that in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of things that we think, that's just a kid's song or that's just a kid's story, are about historical events.
Right.
Like, just the simple Ring Around the Rosie. That's
right.
about the Black Death.
And Yankee Doodle and all that kind of stuff. All those are based on
London
all those,
Bridge.
all those are based off things that actually happen. And
Mary, How Does Your Garden Grow?
exactly,
All those,
yeah. That's a messed up one.
Yeah, it is. If you,
Right.
right.
But it's like the fact that is how we do it. Like we talk about historical things in kids' songs to the point where
Mary quite contrary.
Yeah.
to the point where we don't even think that.
We'll explain it later.
Bro,
Yeah.
with nuts
Silver
and
bells
grannies
and-
farts and fannies.
No, with silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row.
Oh yeah. But it's like we don't even think about that being historically significant when we're kids, and then when you're older and you learn the stories behind all, you're like, what?
Ring Around the Rosie's about the Black Plague?
No.
We fall down because we were dying? This is a terrible thing. Why did we do this? Yeah.
One more thing I want to bring up though.
Yeah.
Because the shark thing
It was beautiful.
It was well done. It was beautiful. Him passed out on the beach, and then I love the metaphor of him not quite being a man, but he's taken on the responsibility of the chi.
And nobody questions it. Like at first there's a little bit
Like what?
like you're not a man. You're not even a boy. You're
You
a
don't
demon
have the
boy. You don't have
tattoos.
you
you
don't-
know, yeah.
But
Yeah,
he's the
yeah.
one that's getting things done and helping everybody survive. And to the point where when people show up, like the new people stop questioning it. Like because everybody's explaining.
He's
Yeah.
the one that
clearly
made
the-
milk happen.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah.
There's
He
the
screamed at a shark.
the trial scene where
That is one of my favorite parts.
okay. I'll let you
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'll let you take that. But the trial scene, it points out they're all sitting in a circle perfectly, but
Yes.
he was sitting there more.
Yeah, he's in the circle with everybody else, but he was more present.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that.
Because there are people who have that presence. Like, if you sit in a circle, like we're sitting in a circle, there's gonna be people that you feel in the circle.
Yeah, they just have a presence about them. Yeah.
So I love
I
the
don't
main
have that
character.
presence.
You do. You just are unaware of it. You have there's a field of sarcasm that floats around.
enjoy it. Some of us don't have that.
But also the gun scene
Yeah.
when the pirates show up.
And shoot the old guy.
He pulls
tabo.
before
A
that.
tabo, yeah. Oh, before that, yeah.
When they pull the gun, he's like, "Oh, the spark maker," and she's like, "Now you have the
A
perfect
good memory. Yeah, now you remember. Great.
And he's like, "But you pointed at me." Like he has this moment of like, "Mother," like
You know, he actually brings it up later. I don't think you've got to that part where he's talking about like, "You shot me," or "You shot at me," and then but it's a really neat moment. You know, when they, man, get to the rest.
I know, sorry.
It's okay.
All right, but Justin?
Favorite parts?
Sorry.
Milking a pig.
How many times did you listen to it?
Twice.
Oh, you really liked it then.
Well, everything's been covered.
Oh.
Aw, not everything.
What about the cannons when they're going bang?
I do
That was funny.
I do like the historical bit about the wrapping the cannon with paper vine to keep it from exploding.
Well, and
I
they
don't
used
think that
they
would've
used the
happened.
plates and stuff,
And
but
the
it was
plates.
tight enough. Like, yeah. I get that.
I think that would have shattered.
If a cannon,
If it was light, if it loaded light enough, and you
They could have shot it
reinforced
once.
There's
That would've
been
been it.
bits in history where they've actually done stuff like that. You know, make
the Washington cannon.
made cannons out of wood and things like that.
They only work once usually, but yeah.
I like
There's
that
famous
little bit.
story during the Civil War, not our Civil War, American Revolution, where they melted a statue of King George down and made a cannon that only fired once.
Yeah.
Yeah, only worked once.
I do have to say I like the tree climbing octopi.
Yes.
Because the one guy after she broke his nose talked about him being in the woods and the thing fell down on top of him and had the heck of a time getting it off before it bit him.
Yeah.
And
Well, and all these things like rain down on him, and you're like, he got pooped on and pooped on, and then a tree climbing octopus landed on his head and tried to crack it open because it thought it was a coconut. Which they'd set up. There was a lot of good paydays in this book.
Yeah.
Like where there was a setup earlier and the later on it paid off for the reader, and I appreciated that a lot.
To the point where, like, now that we talk about it, I feel like I should have
Seen some things coming that you didn't?
Yeah, I didn't. I'm like,
another
they set all those up and
little
right?
bit that came to mind is after they've gone down the cave and opened the doors and they're running ahead of the fallen corpses.
All the smoke,
And
dust.
he gets to this one point and says, okay, they're not going to fall past this point because this rock is protruding out, and and some crazy thing happens. And
one bone, and
One
she's pretty
bone.
sure it was a rib bone, but
just
goes
barely-
flying just enough.
and knocks the
Next.
keeps it going.
That was a great scene. I love that
was-
scene.
That was because they're like, oh man.
I love that part where Daphne's like, she heard that whenever you take a breath in, you breathe in, particles and bits of everyone who's lived before. She's like, but I don't need to do it all at once.
Yeah.
it's like, I feel you.
Oh, yeah.
Your turn.
Oh, my turn? That's all?
That's all I can
Okay.
do at the moment.
That's why I write notes.
Yeah,
It's hard to write notes when I'm driving.
I liked this. I loved the scene with the grandfathers all falling. I liked the grandfather birds. I thought they were great. I was like, I couldn't. I was trying to figure out like what kind of bird are they exactly. I'm like, they kind of remind me of an owl, and they hack up the bones of the things they ate. But I'm like,
shot those things.
It's got to be more of a tropical bird.
yeah, I know. I was trying to
Well,
figure
they
it out.
reminded me of a toucan.
A toucan, I was thinking something like that.
Yeah, but they talked about the legs and how they looked like the pantaloons.
Yeah, I got into my mind where they were vultures.
Except that they
That's
weren't
what I know
carrion
they
birds,
weren't
but
exactly.
yeah, well, kind of, but not. Yeah, so
Just because of the pantaloons, that's what
Uh-huh.
that's the part that
Seagulls,
came up in my
maybe?
mind.
no, they wouldn't have been seagulls. They weren't.
No.
They weren't.
I'm saying that because they said pantaloons.
They
for
didn't,
some reason,
they
that was
didn't
the
have
first
the
thing
right look.
that came to
Yeah.
mind. So
And they, yeah,
I could
so
stop
they
thinking
were
vultures.
bigger than seagulls anyway. But yeah, it was fun. I loved the hatred between the parrot and the grandfather birds too. I loved that. So this is the second time I've gone through the book. So things that I remembered from over 10 years ago when I first read it. I remembered the whole baby being born, twinkle twinkle little star, and she insisted that they not call the baby Twinkle.
I know.
I remembered that. There were things that I had forgotten, but I had remembered that scene, and I remembered that they managed to work it out so that although her father did become king because 139 people died, so he could become king, that the nation was still able to stay itself and not become part of the empire, that they were able to work it out to be the scientific hub and all that. I remember the history, I remember the stars in the cave, and I'd forgotten about the grandfathers all disintegrating, but I remembered the statues, and more, the thing I remembered most vividly about that was the stars and constellations from the cave. But going back, and I'd forgotten a lot of things. I'd forgotten about what exactly happened when the Raiders came, which was a great scene. Him underwater and the bullets stopping, because it does do that, and we know scientifically, but he's figuring out, oh, well, it's hard to run through water. I guess it's like that for bullets too,
right?
And that was a great fight scene, and the whole coming back around with the axe, and dang it, Brandon, you got to listen to the rest of the book. And I loved.
I think the birds were albatrosses.
Well, according to the internet and the Terry Pratchett wiki, it is they believe he was going for something called a hornbill bird.
Oh, okay.
Seems highly likely they're a species of hornbill.
Okay, fair enough. They look crotchety.
Yeah.
I loved them getting drunk and passing out. And the sounds that they made. Little nom, 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 nom.
But they have, here's a look at the legs. You have feathers on the legs.
Okay. I pictured longer legs, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's what the internet.
That's all good.
Yeah.
I loved and again it came back around where Daphne's she's showing her dad the cave, and she's saying they had telescopes, and well, you gotta prove this to me. I don't.
And she's like, Dad, listen, Dad.
Listen, and they look, it's glass, and da da da. Well, yeah, but she's like, and then she shows them the spectacles. She's like, why didn't you start with this? Because I had to show you my scientific process, because with all
I love how
the debates that they'd had when she was younger, and he taught her the process, and she's like,
I love that he was like, you can't just say it stands to reason. It stands to reason the earth is flat, but it's not.
Right.
So, and then that's, she's like, look. And like the whole, why didn't you tell me that too? Because you had to see my thought process there.
Right? Like,
and he's like, well, can't argue with that.
I liked their relationship, and I liked that he encouraged her brain and her mind, and in spite of her grandmother, she still managed to come out smart. And I loved that she's like, well, she cut off the guy's leg and a foot. As long as she had somebody to keep the page open to the right, get the book open to the right page, she did just fine, following all the directions. And
all she had to do was just put the foot on it.
But she just, but you need her.
I will say,
I liked that part.
I liked the end when she's talking to Mao on the beach, and she's like, trying to find, you feel like she's trying to find some reason to stay, but not quite. And she's figuring it out.
Oh, and she's talking about, so I'm not sure about this person. Check their bandages, and you might want to wake up Mrs. Gurgle. It'd be worth it. And she's giving him all these things that still need to be taken care of, but she won't be here to do it. I love. Yeah, it was good. It was a good moment. She's like, I'm messing this up, aren't I? And he's like, no, I think you're doing it just right.
And I like. I forgot to mention this. The line that really hit home to me, because recently my dad's been having all these health problems. It's like, your dad needs you. And I'm like, oh, I felt that in my soul. Because I know you guys know I'm my dad's only kid.
Right.
And I've got sisters, but they're my mother's kids. I know my dad. So when my dad had this recent health stuff going on, I was the main one, like, okay, we got to get this paperwork working, we got to do this, we got to do this. I've been doing a lot of stuff for my dad to help him with it health-wise. So that line, I'm like, oh. Okay, hold on. I put the book down and go, I need a minute. Hold on.
I feel that in my soul,
Why did you have to call me out, Terry Pratchett?
From the grave
into the light. I don't like this. I don't like this one bit.
Right?
I didn't feel anything.
Well, of course you didn't. It's not you.
I was like, I felt that. Okay, now I can keep going.
Because it's something that you identify with at this moment in your life.
I was in the very end of the book. I'm like, dang it, I thought I'd get through this whole book without feeling anything like, right at me, now I'm attacked.
Right.
I'm just, because, I was like, my weakest moments, I thought, why can't someone else take care of this? But you just attacked me right now, Terry Pratchett. I hate you. No, I love you.
I know. I forget when the book came out, but we got it. We got it that year. It was brand new. Yeah. We had some book you know how you do sign up for the Disney movies or whatever club, and they send you. So we had something like that, and it
science fiction book club.
Yeah, science fiction book club. That's what it was. So it came brand new, the month it was released. This is how long we read it when it first came out. But reading it again, that whole scene with the whole, I'd forgotten all about the plague even being mentioned, and you're like, and it hits differently after COVID.
Oh yeah.
You know,
It's
like,
a sci-fi book club.
oh yeah, sci-fi book club was cool. But
I
yeah,
found Terry Goodkind.
yeah. But you know, like, so there's things that like are different at this point in my life than, you know, 2008 when it first came out.
Yeah.
You know, but still, like, there were things that I loved. You know, he says it's an alternate history. It's an you know, it's a parallel universe. But it was so good, and the characters were. Well, he always has such vivid characters anyway. Like even side characters that you don't see very much of, like the Mr. Black and Mr. Brown and Mr. Red. You know, the government guys. Even they were stereotypical government guys, but they still had their own humor, like talking about her grandma.
That's a good line.
Yeah,
I
men
like
of last
Men of
resort.
Last Resort. I'm gonna steal that.
Right?
That's a comic.
Even
book
like the
there.
captain who
Make a good
died at the beginning. You know, things
Yeah.
like there's stuff that's important. Like the scene where she's having to help deliver a baby. And the last time she was around that, her mom and the baby both died, and she's having to deal and move on, and all. There was so many really good moments, really human. There's a lot of humanity in this, and a lot of, you know.
That's true. They didn't have two-dimensional character. Like, they didn't just mention, oh yeah, her mom and brother died, and then drop that. Like,
Yeah, everything was.
it didn't affect her at all from this point going on.
Even the moment where she talked about the butler that got fired because he got drunk, like, and talked about his walk, and she'd almost had his weird walk down, like, just everybody. Even they were mentioned like a side
the only
moment.
reason he
Like,
got drunk was because his father had died.
oh yeah, and you're just like little things like that, where even these people who were memories and weren't even part of the story, but they had a tie-in, and they were all, nobody was flat two-dimensional character.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. Even the woman that, the unknown woman, you know, the paper vine woman, you know, she ended up having such an interesting character arc, and she's a side character. You know, I loved that. But all right, dislikes. You suggested it. You probably don't have any.
Not really.
It's okay. If you don't have any dislikes, that's fine.
I remembered something else I liked
Okay, go
earlier,
ahead and
but
share.
I'd forgotten about it.
Oh, okay.
So again, so
Sorry, you just.
it sounds like when Brandon was talking. So
It's okay. All right, David. You always have a list.
Oh, I always have a list. Okay. I find it highly annoying that family members have already planned your whole life for you, her grandmother.
Oh yeah.
Whose life is it then? Yours or hers?
Exactly.
That happens.
That's
though.
why we don't like the grandma.
I also find it strange how naive people are, keeping children so sheltered that they become adults before they learn what one is.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
And I see it every day, and that's how I think with you guys. Because like how you guys, because the way I am so desensitized, and my perception of things is so different than some of you people here. I think it's that way that you guys became adults before you learned what was. Like how sheltered Micah and Rebecca are. How like when they were going to see Harry Potter movies when they were 13, when I probably wouldn't watching that when I was like 5 or 6. And
Not everybody's parents are different. Everybody makes different choices.
that I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I just like
It's just different.
I will say there are some things I wish I'd learned earlier on in life. You know, as far as like being overprotective. Because I had that overprotective family too, and so there are some things I wish I could have learned earlier than I learned them. You know.
Yeah, and with her being guided towards what Grandma wanted, it kind of led her down that path that she didn't really get to learn anything.
Oh yeah, but being on the island was a great experience for her.
Of
'Cause
course,
she
it
learned
was.
everything.
That was probably the best thing that happened to her in her whole life,
Right.
Until her grandmother showed up.
Great, Grandma, you
I'm
ruined
sorry,
the island.
I'm sorry, but respect your no. I was never taught that. I mean, if I would have came up and said something to the wrong person, and I got backhanded, but then I would have probably been told like, hey, you did that, and that's the reason why you got that. not this being disrespected just because you have to respect your elders. I'm not going to sit there and be disrespected.
But it's also, we're dealing with
A big difference in time period too.
Yeah, like
not really, because
In class.
in class.
oh,
Yeah.
Like we're dealing with what era is kind of set in? Victorian England,
Gentry, yeah.
Gentry.
yeah.
'Cause, I
But,
mean-
but Wayne and I figured out that the year was the late 1880s because of
Yeah.
the pistol and the
Pepperbox.
eruption and the
eruption of
the volcano.
Krakatoa.
Okay, so that makes sense.
It was the 1880s.
Although, oh wait.
Flip-flop.
It was at least 7 generations before they had computers, because in the epilogue, he's talking about, everything's computers nowadays, and he talked about it. The
Internet.
one character was his great grandfather, so that there's 4 generations, and then not including his grandparents, his parents, and then him. So, and that's the old man at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, August 27th, 1883 was one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in recorded history
Yeah.
when Krakatoa blew up.
Yeah. Also, another like or dislike. I thought the chapters were too long.
I could see that.
I mean,
The last chapter especially.
Was very
I
long.
mean, I like a little break in there that's part of the chapter, but it just keeps on going and going and going. I'm like, come
In the
on,
audible
man.
version, they throw in these odd bits of jungle music.
Yes,
So lame
It's like,
and not
what?
necessary.
That's so weird.
to
It's
break up
super
the
weird.
chapters.
It's like in the
yeah.
middle of the chapter, you have this little bit of jungle music, and then it carries on with the rest of the chapter. Like,
Like,
okay.
that was pointless.
So I guess that's the intermission for this chapter.
Right.
And I just thought it was a little far-fetched that 139 people died and then her dad became king.
Well, if there was, they talked about hundreds and thousands of people dying from a plague.
Exactly, and that comes up to another part.
Right.
What I'm about to say, because it felt like there was 3 stories, and then 2 of the stories just went poof, and then focused on one. It's like, well, what happened to the rest of it?
What do you mean?
What happened to the plague and everything?
The plague was still going
I
on.
know, but what was the whole point of the whole point of that at all? And then
Because her dad became king.
I
That was
know,
the
but-
point of that.
No, it just felt weird to me. But like, okay, first the gods left, and then one god took over, and then you heard nothing about it again. The second one was they're going after the.
The gods you heard about all the time throughout the story.
No, it was the very first one. You know, because the first
Yeah,
god
but-
left.
He made the
To make
perfect
the
world.
Yeah, but he was bored with it.
No, he left here to go make a perfect world. And the one he
It's
left in
just-
charge
it's just-
was the god of death, who we saw throughout the book.
No, I just thought that like it kind of like just stopped and.
No, it was setting up the story of the gods. for
I
the
didn't
people.
see it that way. I felt like they abandoned it.
They kept going back to it. It kept referring back to it.
No,
though.
not to me. Not to me.
The whole scene with him and what is it, like Lakaha, the
Night
god of
Nation.
death, where
Yeah.
he's giving him a choice after he's just defeated the
I
raiders. He's
honestly-
giving him the choice to go into the perfect world that Emo made after this world. They completely refers back. That's a complete reference to the beginning.
No, not to me.
But that's what it was.
I just thought.
Even if you didn't pick up on it, that's
That's why it was set up, so that he
Yeah.
could offer him a choice of staying
I
here,
didn't, I
going
didn't
on.
see it that way.
Okay.
Because when you die, or when you think you're dying, you're always thinking about what your life was like, and I think it was just him talking to himself.
But it's the gods that were set up that he's seeing and talking to.
I just don't
Even
think
if it
that.
is only in his own head, that's the gods he was taught about, and that's the gods they're constantly referring to on the island with the god statues and everything. It's the same gods that they talked about.
Then how come none of the other people heard the voices?
I'm saying it may have still been in his head,
Yeah.
but the whole
But-
setup with the gods at the beginning was so that you know who he's imagining himself talking to, and the god statues that everybody saw in the cave are those same gods.
Daphne heard voices when she
She
saw
heard the grandmothers,
the
yeah.
grandmother voices. Like it
but,
wasn't.
but it wasn't Lokaha.
But she saw Lakaha when she goes to save his life in the dream world.
Mhm.
I'm just saying,
it
the
just
thing
felt
at the
weird to
beginning
me.
was a setup to understand who the gods were of this nation, so that all the interactions and all the references would be understood in the rest of the story.
It wasn't. I didn't understand it.
Okay.
And then the second part with what was, I mean, I just didn't get it. They were going to go out and look for who?
Her dad. That's who they're looking for.
Yeah, but wasn't the dad already on the boat with them when they left England?
No.
He was on a different boat.
He was already the mayor of the island. He had left earlier. They went to go find him. They loaded the grandma on board to go find him. And she had been sent later to meet her father. So they knew she was on a different ship, the Judy, Sweet Judy, to go meet her father in the islands where he's the mayor, because that's where the king.
There's the whole
Port
chapter
Mercer.
where he's talking to the grandmother and he goes, "I'm leaving, and in 2 months my daughter's coming."
Okay, I remember.
You can
that.
join me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're trying to find him, and they go to Port Mercer, but he, because of his daughter who didn't show up in time and with the big wave and everything, he had already gone to find her.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's when they finally found him.
I guess I just got confused with that. But
That's okay. There's a lot of ships.
Right. And
But-
some of these I feel like were kind of one-line things that if you weren't paying attention, you'd
Right.
Go, oh, okay, yeah. That's,
And some of the ships had similar names.
Yeah, and the people in charge of them.
But
Yeah.
139 people ahead of him dying, I just didn't really see that happening.
It
Totally.
happens.
It does happen though. Well, the problem was that one of the people who was really, really sick was serving the whole, they were having a big royal feast, and most of the main people died right then. Like 50 of them right then.
It just makes me wonder if the grandmother had anything to do with it.
I know, we all thought that. It's okay, we all thought that.
But
That's
it's
why she
possible.
asked at the end, was my grandmother doing something silly?
But I just figured, like, man, this whole world blows.
Yeah.
Because one, you have the god of death who's in control of the whole world. Then the whole plague kills how many people?
Yeah, but that
And
happened
then-
in real life
and-
several
and-
times.
Yeah, but during the same time, the tsunami happened, or the explosion happened,
Yeah.
and killed
Well, think
God
about
knows
how many-
millions of people. Plus, there was a plague at the same time.
We had that not that long ago. There was a tsunami that demolished whatever during
Japan.
during the same time we were having all the COVID stuff. There was a big tsunami that crushed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was only it wasn't everybody. It was a
didn't-
lot.
It was.
Where did it crush? It was.
Well, we had the tsunami
It
2
was,
years
it was in the
before
Polynesian.
COVID.
There was the
But then there was a
Polynesian
more recent one.
islands.
Mhm. And then you think about the Spanish flu. How many people died of that?
The Japan tsunami is scary because there's
Yeah.
footage.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. So yeah, okay, it sucks, but so does the
I
real
just-
world as far as that goes.
I just because the way they were talking about the plague, about how people, it sounded like it was all over the world.
It was all over the British world right
the
then.
British Empire, which covered
England.
a good portion
Yeah.
of the world.
But and then on top
England,
of it, this
India,
huge
Africa.
volcanic catastrophe happens.
On the other side of the world, yeah.
Yeah, but what we were reading about it affected the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
That volcanic. So I just thought there was just way too many worldwide catastrophes for my liking. I just went, no.
Okay.
We'd have to look up when the last European plague was in the 1800s.
Yeah, because the last big plague was the Spanish influenza, but that was like 1902 or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, 1918 I think it was.
Yeah, and well, yeah, early.
Yeah,
Something
so-
like
okay.
that.
But then was there a volcanic eruption that affected the world at the same time? No.
December 21, an eruption on Hunga Tonga.
Oh right, so that was
Hawaii,
yeah, so that was
a submarine volcano which rivaled Krakatoa in its size.
yeah, so that was just a couple of years ago.
That
So
was
we
in
had 2020
that was
where everything
January
locked
of-
down, and
That was
then
December of 2021.
yeah, so it was.
And
I mean,
it
not
had a-
immediately, but within
and,
the same.
And it had another one, another eruption in January of 2022.
22. Yeah, there was a couple eruptions recently. I knew there was something.
I never even heard of it.
Really?
No.
Oh, well, anyway.
Yeah.
Yellow fever was running at the same time as Krakatoa in 1883.
Yeah. And yellow fever killed a lot of people.
Thousands of people.
Thousands versus the plague here, where you're saying hundreds of
Well,
thousands.
considering
just in
the-
England itself.
the time period though, and
The
where it
time
was,
period and
and
the population.
population wasn't
And
as
not
great as now.
understanding really germs and how they work.
So yes, there was a plague in England the same time there was
As the
Krakatoa.
Krakatoa.
Yep, historically. All right, was that all your negatives?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Maylene.
I didn't have too many negatives. Like I said, I felt like the latter half of the book was better. The first part I felt kind of dragged a little bit in parts for me. So I think that was partly what played into me. Like, I read the bulk of this book in this last week. I think I was only like 100 and some odd pages at the beginning of this week because I was like,
I started listening to it yesterday.
well, I didn't have the
I
audiobook.
finished at noon today.
The audiobook's only 9 hours.
Yeah,
Does
like 9.5
does this
hours.
mean you actually read it, or did you not read
David, I read it in 2008. This is I read it. I read the entire thing.
So, but
Started it again yesterday.
So I wasn't very. I think, 'cause, you know, I track my reading on Goodreads, so they'll tell you what percentage of the book you're through, and I was only like 23% of the way at the beginning on Monday.
Right.
You know, so
I got it.
and I think part of it was just because, like I said, parts of it did drag, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, honestly, the main reason why I finished it was because I was like, I gotta keep my numbers up. I gotta read every book all the way through. My pride's on the line at this point.
I think only you and I have done
Something
it.
like that, yeah. That's why I tell Brent all the time, I go, I gotta finish it. And one of my friends, I tell her about book club, and she goes, if you don't have the book, you don't have to read it, right? I go, well, no, I don't have to read it all the way through, but I have to. And she's like, oh my gosh. I said, I said, me and Dave are the only ones who've read every book since we both, I said, me from the very beginning of book club.
You're the only one who's read all of the book club books.
From the beginning. And
David's read every one since he got
here.
here.
Yeah.
That means I'll have to go back and read the other ones
Yep.
and tell them how much your picks suck.
Yep.
We can do an episode
Oh my goodness.
where you read the first, 5 books or whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately, the first one was a Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, it was
book.
also
Terry-
terrible.
It was one of the Discworld
Discworld.
books, and I know you don't like those.
Yeah. But so that, honestly, that was really what got me like, okay, I gotta read this book.
But then you loved it.
I'm glad
right?
I liked
Yeah,
it.
it was
Like
good.
last half of it, like I
It ended
said,
really well. Yeah, it was good.
ended better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna have a story that's character driven more than because there were things that happened in the book, obviously, starting with the big wave and all that stuff. But I felt to me like this was supposed to be more about the characters than
Right.
like getting through the circumstances. And I feel like if you're gonna have that kind of story, for me anyway, you gotta have a lot of characters, like to make it interesting.
Right,
Like,
but
okay,
he kept adding.
so one, that's why I like the second half, because it's like,
There's more
okay,
people.
now there's more people that I can be interested in.
And even
versus-
some of those early on ones, like the lady who was
Yeah.
so dazed and out of it, the unknown woman who couldn't even feed her baby when we first met her.
Yeah.
I didn't think she was going to survive. You know
I
what I mean?
didn't
You're
think
like,
so
her baby's going to live. This woman's
Honestly,
going to check out and go kill herself.
I thought she was gonna snap
Or die of heat stroke.
I was worried. I thought she was gonna take her baby with her. Like,
Right.
honestly, like I'm like, this woman's gonna just lose her ever living mind.
And then at the end, she's just amazed. Like
Right.
the transformation and the.
I was like,
Yeah.
at like best case scenario, she's just gonna off herself like that.
Right.
That's what I
Right.
thought.
That's what
I'm
you
like,
think.
But
And then she ends up
um,
taking out her vengeance on those
Right.
raiders.
and I would say
we won't tell you the rest of it, Brandon. You got to
Right,
finish.
Right. I would.
Part of me is happy that the weird priest guy got killed.
Oh, the old
I
guy.
was so angry when he got it.
No, I was. I'm like, oh, fine.
Like, because
He was driving you crazy.
Yeah.
He was just annoying. I
The water
I would have
priest?
slapped that guy upside the head. Shut up, old
Like,
man.
I'm okay with him having a difference of opinion, but he served a pretty strong narrative function, being able
He
to
did.
translate and
I think one of my other.
He was just too disrespectful for my taste.
One of my other dislikes was, don't get me wrong, I loved the trial scene, like when they're having the trial and all that stuff. When she first brought up the idea of the trial, that kind of annoyed me, because I'm like, I get it, you feel guilty for having tricked this guy, but he was
Oh,
dangerous.
hell no.
But I was like, he was dangerous. It was necessary. Everyone
Get
is telling
over
you it was necessary. They're looking at you like, why do you want a trial? Like, once you explain it to him, you don't need a trial. He was gonna do harm. get over it.
He killed our water priest.
It was.
Yeah.
I get it. You don't want to, but it was a necessary thing to do because
Right.
otherwise, who knows? Like she said, he was going to kill more people. You know, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that trial thing.
Yeah, I was
Because
like,
she knew those people were pirates.
Yeah.
And she knew they were evil, but you have to understand that she'd never hurt anyone, even much less killed someone in her entire life.
Except for her cousin who she
Right.
broke his fingers into the rock.
Which I thought was kind of odd because if she's part of the royal family, she knew what the royalists do to people like that.
Yeah.
But
so I
anyway.
mean, I get it. She was younger, but at the same time, it's like
she's only 13 in the book.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm sorry, but if I were there, it's like you gotta understand. Sometimes we gotta do things we don't want to do.
Right.
Okay, it's bad. It sucks.
No, and I get it, and I felt like, oh my gosh, Daphne, get over it. But at the same time, when they worked through it and they talked through it, she had closure. It did help her get through that.
So,
and, she was judged. She was fine. And then I was like, all right, so we need to finish this. Everybody's got stuff to do. Okay. And she's like,
I think it was more them convincing her that she didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It was. But they judged, they decided. And, I liked because she realized, that moment where she realized this is real democracy. Everyone has a say. It's not just a vote. Pilu was going around and getting everyone's opinion on it. Everything.
It wasn't just like, now you're the chief. You decide.
Right? Or raise your hand. Who thinks this? Who thinks this? It was so this is what you think, and this is what everybody feels, and this is how it is.
Yeah.
So there was I thought there were some really interesting things about the trial scene that was interesting.
Yeah.
Her insisting on a trial was a bit ridiculous, but I did fit her character.
I'll say that was I
didn't feel like it was out of character.
It wasn't out of character.
Fit her character.
But I almost wanted like the other people to like, you're good. Let's
go.
Like, you're not in trouble. Let's keep going.
Try to explain.
You're not back home.
I love all the different explanations, but then being able to see like their version of what a trial was like was really like that's how it should be, So there was some good stuff that came out of it. So, but yeah,
definitely. And let's see. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I don't think there was anything else I really. I didn't really care for all the conversation with Akoa. I mean, I get it but I don't know. Like it kind of. Sometimes it felt a little jarring to have that conversation with
the Koha, the god of death.
Like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, he came up at the wrong times. You're like, dude, just go away.
Right. Like that
annoying god of death.
Sorry, I just opened up to that picture we were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my biggest issue, and I talked to Wayne about this way back when, was the first chapter with the plague and it just after COVID it hit home.
And it hits different.
It I didn't want to read it. I didn't
because you thought that was a big part of the book, huh?
Yeah, I was like, we're dealing with plagues, we're dealing with spraying people down with pink mists, and we're dealing with contamination suits.
And you're like, nope.
I know.
He's just like, I'm out.
Right?
And it took me a long time to pick it back up.
It didn't even affect me at all.
Of course not.
Right.
Well,
David, there are a lot of people post-COVID who are dealing with levels of PTSD from COVID. When you start talking about masks and.
It didn't affect me at all. The only PTSD I have is my mother beating the shit out of me every day.
And that's we all carry our
baggage.
Our baggage. But it was just I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to confront that. And then the book that it sets up in the beginning is basically a pirate adventure of okay, we got to go get the heir and we got to get him back. And we only have X amount of days, otherwise the King of England's going to be French.
Yeah, can't have that. The French don't even want that. Let's not let this happen.
Yeah. And so I was all on board for that adventure. And
it wasn't about that.
That just, like Dave said, disappears.
And comes back at the end.
I'm sure,
it does.
Maylene told me.
Back at the end?
Yes, they found the king, they crowned him. That was their whole point. And then they headed back.
Oh no, but the plague thing. So,
Not the
no.
plague.
Well,
but
we don't talk about. They don't talk about it anymore. But
Yeah.
it had been several months. They had
They do
time
mention
to.
the fact that they're all dead. You know, all 100 and so many of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So it was mentioned, but it
I mean,
wasn't.
yeah, I mean, but I thought,
Like,
if you wouldn't have read the book, I would have really thought it would have been odd because, like you said, it was what
they're end
five
caps.
yeah.
pages or something.
Yeah,
about
it's
it.
that's just a yeah.
Yeah, like
It's just the end cap.
They're end caps. Like, here's where we begin with the crowning of a king, or we gotta find the king.
And then we end with the crowning of the king and taking him home, and yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the main character and the main crux of the story have nothing to do with those end caps.
No,
Yeah.
it's the king's daughter and a new sort of king, chief,
Mhm.
becoming a chief.
So yeah, that was
Yeah.
probably my biggest
Mhm.
qualm, hang up, issue.
Justin, you listened to it twice in the last couple months. So.
yeah, I didn't have a whole lot I disliked about it, except one. I'm of the opinion, understanding that the axe that he had in the beginning was made of stone. Does that seem right to you?
I don't remember.
Because if it was made of stone, there's no way in the world you're going to take a stone axe and do what he did to the
I
log.
got the opinion that it was a wooden axe.
Well, wooden handle, but the head.
Right.
Well, because
but-
it was
you
a
know.
it was a tool that if you held it one way, was an axe, and you held it another way was like an awl thing that scooped out
Auger.
the
Yes.
yeah. So
So,
Well,
but,
when it says when he left the island, he put that axe deep in the tree because it's like he made it difficult for the next kid.
and then the next
And-
boy ended up being him.
And-
He's like,
and-
dang it.
but they mentioned that their knives and things were primarily flint knives. You know, they're made of flint or stone.
It could have been a.
And I was thinking, if it's a stone axe, there's no way in the world he's going to bury it in a tree like that without
most
you know.
islanders had obsidian.
Yeah, and so,
It never even crossed my mind.
but that was just a little nitpicky thing. The other little nitpicky thing that I didn't care that irked me was in for the time frame. The villain that he fought. She mentions that he at one point he had a revolver, but at the other point it said it's a pepper box, which are two totally different
But
firearms.
he had different guns. He had two different guns.
Yeah.
I know, but he had two single-shot flintlocks, and then he had his revolver or pepper box, whichever it was. And
Because that's when he was firing multiple times.
right,
But he got it off the
but
Yeah, I think-
Swiss or whatever, some Dutchman.
yeah,
The
I
Dutchman.
don't
Right.
remember. Yeah.
They took over
And-
his ship.
because for the time period, if it was a revolver, it would have held cartridges in the 1880s.
Because Wayne and I had this discussion.
And if it were a pepper box, it would have been a muzzle loader. And those, you don't pull a hammer back and it revolves. You have to revolve it.
So the
it's-
firearms might not have been completely accurate.
Yeah. And
Or that's pretty normal.
that's the only thing.
Actually,
For a lot of people.
I think it might have been accurate because of when the volcano. Because Wayne and I had that discussion when the volcano went off.
1883 is what we
Yeah. And I don't recall when they actually started making cartridges for pistols, but by 1883, yes.
They had cartridge revolvers in the 1850s.
Yeah.
They were 22 caliber, but they had cartridge revolvers.
So by
But-
1883, they probably
Because
had most of everything.
the Colt Peacemaker was 1870s.
Yeah.
And that was the single action army. So that
But you also have to look at geography. And
yeah.
Did they have, just because something was readily available in one area,
Oh, I know.
it hadn't gotten
But
the-
if it was Yeah, but the thing is either a revolver or it's a pepper box. It's not.
Not both.
No, yeah, I didn't.
I just assumed he had multiple.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that he made a mistake on there. I just think he just had multiple weapons, and then when he wanted to shoot Mao, he pulled out that pistol and was shooting him multiple times.
Right.
That was a fun. I enjoyed that.
That was
scene.
a good. It was a good fight
Good
scene.
scene. Mal remembering when he shot her and it had gotten wet. He's like, "Guns don't like water. I'm going to the lagoon."
Anything for you, Bonnie?
Things I didn't like? Oh, probably, but I can't think of any of them right now. I'm just remembering all the stuff I liked.
So, if you want to give you a moment to think, because I meant to mention this earlier, I ended up reading the author's note. I don't know if anyone else listened to it or read it, but I thought it was kind of funny because Terry Pratchett started talking about some of the things he talks about in the book, like the drowning bullets, how they slow down in water, and it's like, okay, it is true that, the faster you go, the more the water acts like concrete, and he says, don't try this at home, though.
Yeah, he has some disclaimers at the back of the book.
And so he's like, don't try this at home, and he goes, I know, he goes, don't even try it at school. And I know,
and don't do it at work. I know one person who did.
Exactly.
But his job is to fire guns for the movies, so they didn't have a problem with it.
And then he talks about Blue Jupiter, like, okay, this is what, it does show up in the eastern sky, but again, don't look at the sun when you've got your telescope because you could go blind.
Yeah.
Don't try it at home. Then you talk about a green cannon, the putting green things in cannons, and this is what this is.
All these different types of
things they put in cannons. He says, needless to say, don't try this at home. My favorite, though, very last thing he talks about, it says, thinking. This book contains some. Whether you try it at home is up to you. And so
it was the author's note was funny. I listened to it in Audible.
I meant to mention that earlier, but I forgot that.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
But so I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, no, I liked some of the stuff. I mean, I didn't particularly like the villain. He was really, really horrible, but you're not supposed to like the villain, so he was well written because I didn't like him. He got his. Because the one that just killed because he could. Like, people like that
didn't really have any feeling for him. Like, okay,
oh yeah, I know. I didn't like
it. Was he good
it.
or bad?
No, he was terrible. I didn't like
what
him.
he was. I'm like, whatever. I didn't really have an opinion.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't. It's one of my favorite Terry Pratchett books, and I've read a lot of Terry Pratchett books, and I personally enjoy Terry Pratchett. I love the Discworld books.
I love Terry Pratchett.
This is my second one, but I'd have to say I like
this one better
Good
Omens. That's right. That was him and Neil Gaiman. Yeah, that's right.
I liked Good Omens better.
Yeah.
Not that this was bad. I thought Good Omens was
but I don't think of that as just a Terry Pratchett book because it's him and Gaiman.
Yeah.
Because I love Gaiman as well.
Yeah.
But out of because to me that's a whole different thing. Like
when you got joint authors.
It's both. It's better than all of Gaiman's books and all of Terry Pratchett's books because it's the two of them working together. It's an amazing book. By the way, Good Omens 2 is now out on Prime.
We don't have Prime.
We'll have to. We haven't watched it yet, but we'll have to because
I haven't even seen Good Omens yet.
We need to see it. We need to have a time where we do it. They did a really good job with it. They really did. And when I first heard that they were doing Good Omens 2, I was like, no. They never read it. But back when they first were just getting really going, they weren't quite famous enough to be able to. They shared a hotel room. They'd finished writing the first one, and they made notes on a second one, which they never had time to write. So Neil Gaiman took those notes and created the Good Omens 2 show. So I'm looking forward to that because I know that it was him and Terry Pratchett worked together on it. It just never came out in book form. So that's a side note because we talked about Good Omens.
I heard that interview. Yeah.
But as far as Terry Pratchett books, this is one of my favorites. And it's not a Discworld book. I mean, I have 3 favorite Discworld books. Don't get me started on Discworld. I love it. I know you don't. It's okay. We can still be
Is that your final thoughts?
Those are my final thoughts. This is good. Oh yeah, final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
I recommend it. I give it at least a 9. And maybe even a 10. I really like the book.
I would give it a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it.
David?
And I'm not really in for the water island thing, but it read fairly well, so I'd give it a 7.
Okay.
I'd give it a 7 too, but that is probably because I also don't like stories that involve big tidal waves because that concept kind of freaks me out a bit. So, but I mean, You know,
Yeah. You don't-
overall, I'll give it a 7.
I know you don't like end of the world catastrophe books
I
and
hate
movies,
it.
and this kind of was that, except that it was
It
also
was
a beginning.
Like on a micro scale.
Yeah,
kind of,
but it's
you
also
know.
a beginning, so I feel like
if
it
they
had redemption.
a mini series on the Sci-Fi Channel or on Netflix, I probably wouldn't watch it though.
Oh, I'd watch it and I'd judge it greatly because it wouldn't be as good as the book. Right?
I might
They
watch.
did a TV show adaptation of The Guards.
Oh, guards,
The
yeah.
Guards are, it's god awful.
Is it?
It's like I couldn't get through the first episode.
Going Postal is one of my favorites.
That's good.
They did a pretty good job with it. There's a few things they changed, but I didn't
Yeah.
hate them for it.
Mhm.
Like, it was still pretty good. Going Postal, they did a decent job with.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job with the color magic.
So
and,
far, that's the only
As
one
well.
where I've read the book. Oh, I know. I did read Color Magic. Don't mind. I did.
Right.
But for a
because
long
Color the
time-
Magic and Light Fantastic
Uh-huh.
are like 2 parts. His first 2
Yeah.
books are kind of together, and they did that in that miniseries with Sean Austin. Hogfather's good too.
Hogfather's awesome.
Hogfather, I loved the miniseries, but I haven't read the book yet. So,
Oh, I have. It's good.
So okay.
Of course, again, there's more to the book, but yeah,
of course.
they did a good job.
That whole scene with Death as Santa Claus and the sword comes up in my feed
More often than
more
you
often, you know.
It's good.
I do look forward to reading Hogfather.
It's a good one.
I haven't gotten to it yet.
All right, Brandon. I know you didn't finish, but
It's I recently saw this thing on Instagram where it was like, if you read one book a month, you're in the top 1% of world readers, because most people after high school and college don't read anymore.
Which makes me sad.
it
So-
makes
I
me
guess I'm
really
in the-
sad.
I guess I'm in the top 1%.
There you go.
There you go.
I'm a
There you go.
1%er.
You're 1%.
There you
High five.
No,
Here we
The
go.
rest of those people are losers.
because, I mean,
The other night.
Yeah.
I would say read it. It's not going to hurt you.
No,
it's a
not.
good
It's
book.
not. It's
Terry
well-written.
Pratchett's really great with satire and
Good characters in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So read it.
Right, Justin,
Read it.
read it. What out of 10 would you give it?
I give it
You
a
did
7.5.
it twice, man.
8. Yeah. Yeah, he read twice. He's 7.5, 8. Okay, I
Mhm.
give it a 9. Dad gives it a 9. All right. So between all of us, it's probably average about a 7.5, 8. Between 9, 9, 8, 7, 7. Yeah.
I
Okay.
can pause it. We can wait for Wayne to come back.
He already gave his final
Okay.
thoughts, so we're good. And he has to draw.
Mm.
That's right, because it was his book.
Hurry up. Woo.
So I'm gonna pause the recording. And
Sorry.
pause.
No, it's okay. All right. So the next book is gonna be.
Good one.
What is it?
Into the Wild by John Krakauer? Or
Krakauer? I don't know. Krakauer?
I'm gonna say Lewis. probably.
Lewis. Yeah, Lewis suggested it.
Of course, it's a Lewis suggestion.
Yeah.
Find these things.
I know.
K-A-U-E-R.
Yeah, Krakauer. Yeah, I think it's a
Caw,
Of course, that could be a V.
As that's why we weren't sure if it was Krakauer or Krakauer. I know. We're all looking at it going, I think it's a.
I think it's the U.
I think
Was
it's
he
a
have
U.
crappy writing?
I think it's
think it's-
Krakauer.
Krakauer. All right. So Into the Wild, it is.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Hey there, people of the interwebs. That was our in-depth review of Nation by Terry Pratchett. I hope you enjoyed the discourse. I hope you comment, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Get involved. Once again, the podcast is brought to you by Destiny Comics, or patreon.com/Destiny Comics. The podcast is only able to thrive because of supporters like you. I know it's cliche, but it's true. PBS was right. Support the local arts. Support artists. Support writers. Support. We are a small collective of writers and artists and artisans. And we appreciate your support. Thank you. I do not know what the next episode is because those recordings are on another laptop and I'm kind of brain dead. I can't remember what we did after Nation. But I assure you, I think we're moving to a twice a month schedule until we catch up. And I just want to thank you. This was a very fun one. And I hope you enjoy the podcast. Once again, brought to you by patreon.com/Destiny Comics. Check out Patreon. We have the Sunday funnies. We have all kinds of cool stuff coming your way. Hopefully this will go up. I'm pretty sure this is up before April. I have my art book coming out in April. Blood and Paint. Retrospective of WCW Pro Wrestling. Oh yeah, if you're a pro wrestling fan, you need to check out the Destiny Comics Facebook and all that kind of fun stuff. Because we there's a whole for 4 years I've been painting one painting a week based on the events that occurred in WCW Pro Wrestling. Why, I don't even know at this point. But in April, a big, thick, hardback art book is coming your way. So thank you for that. And hope you enjoy us. And once again, patreon.com/Destiny Comics. If you want to buy our books directly, you go to destinycomics.weebly.com. And there we have our most of our selection of books. Most of our stuff is on Amazon, but if you buy it directly through us, we get all the money versus the royalties on Amazon direct books is a joke. You didn't hear that here. All right, take care and see you next time.